What happens when the law mistakes its own enforcer for a threat? In the heart of a bustling city courtroom, where justice was meant to be served, a single moment spiraled into chaos, revealing the raw edges of prejudice, power, and redemption. The air in Courtroom 4B was thick with tension. It was a sweltering July morning, the kind where tempers fray like old rope. The room buzzed with the low hum of anticipation as defendants, lawyers, and onlookers awaited the judge's entrance. Among them stood Officer Daniel Harper, a rookie cop with a crisp uniform and a nervous edge. His hand rested on his taser, a habit born from months patrolling the city's roughest streets. Today he was stationed in the courtroom, a last-minute assignment to replace a sick colleague. He scanned the room, his eyes darting from face to face, hyper-alert for any sign of trouble. At the front of the room, a woman entered through a side door. She was black, in her mid-40s, with a composed stride that cut through the room's chaos. Her attire was unassuming, a simple blazer and skirt, no robe yet, as she'd just arrived from a meeting. She carried a stack of files, her eyes scanning them as she moved toward the bench. To Harper, she looked out of place. No one announced her entrance, and in his mind, she didn't fit the profile of anyone who belonged at the front of a courtroom. His training kicked in, his pulse quickening. "Ma'am," he called out, his voice sharp. "You can't be up there. Step back to the gallery." The woman paused, her eyes lifting from the files. A murmur rippled through the room. She turned to face him, her expression calm but piercing. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady, like a river over smooth stones. Harper's hand tightened on his taser. Something about her composure unsettled him. "I said, step back," he repeated, louder now, his voice cracking with authority he wasn't sure he possessed. The crowd hushed. A few spectators leaned forward, sensing the brewing storm. The woman didn't move. Instead, she set her files down on the bench, her movements deliberate. "Officer," she said, her tone even but firm, "I suggest you lower your hand." Harper's face flushed. He felt the weight of every eye in the room. His training screamed at him to take control. She was defying him, challenging his authority in front of everyone. Without thinking, he pulled his taser and fired. The crackle of electricity split the air. The woman staggered, her body tensing as the prongs hit her side. Gasps erupted from the crowd. A bailiff lunged forward, shouting, "Stop!" But it was too late. The woman caught herself on the bench, her breath ragged but her eyes never leaving Harper's. The room froze, a tableau of shock and disbelief. Harper's heart pounded, his certainty crumbling as he saw something in her gaze, not fear, not anger, but an unshakable resolve. Then came the first twist. A young lawyer, barely out of law school, leapt from his seat in the gallery. "What the hell are you doing?" he shouted, his voice trembling with outrage. "That's Judge Amara Ellis." The name hit Harper like a freight train. Judge Ellis, the presiding judge of Courtroom 4B, renowned for her fairness and unyielding commitment to justice. His face drained of color, his taser clattering to the floor. The room erupted in chaos, spectators shouting, the bailiff rushing to the judge's side, and Harper standing rooted, his world collapsing. Judge Ellis straightened, brushing off the bailiff's concern with a raised hand. She removed the taser prongs from her side with a wince, her movements deliberate, her dignity intact. "Officer Harper," she said, her voice cutting through the din, "I am the judge of this courtroom." The words landed like a gavel, final and unyielding. Harper's knees buckled. He stammered, "Too didn't know. I thought," but his excuses dissolved under her gaze. She didn't raise her voice, didn't lash out. Instead, she said, "Sit down, officer. We'll address this after today's docket." The courtroom settled, but the air crackled with unspoken questions. How could this happen? How could a cop mistake a judge for a threat? And why did Harper act so quickly? As Judge Ellis donned her robe and took her place at the bench, the proceedings resumed, but the weight of the incident lingered. Harper sat in the back, his face ashen, replaying the moment in his mind. He'd acted on instinct, on a split-second judgment shaped by years of warnings about dangerous faces and places. But instinct had failed him, exposing a deeper flaw not just in him, but in the system he served. Midway through the docket, the second twist emerged. A defendant, a wiry man named Marcus Tate, stood before the bench. He was there for a minor theft charge, but his eyes burned with defiance. As Judge Ellis reviewed his case, Marcus interrupted, his voice low but venomous. "You're all the same," he spat. "Cops, judges, you all wear masks, pretending to care about justice while you lock us up." The room tensed. Harper, still reeling, watched as Marcus's words struck a nerve. The judge's calm faltered for a moment, her eyes narrowing. "Mr. Tate," she said, "you assume I don't understand your pain. You're wrong." She leaned forward, her voice softening but carrying a weight that silenced the room. "I grew up in a neighborhood where sirens were lullabies. I've been profiled, followed, questioned for no reason other than my skin. But I chose this bench to change the system from within, not to tear it down." Marcus blinked, caught off guard. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. Judge Ellis's words weren't just for Marcus, they were for Harper, for the courtroom, for everyone listening. She was no stranger to the injustices Marcus railed against, yet she'd risen above them, not with anger, but with purpose. The day wore on, case after case, each one a reminder of the system's imperfections. Harper watched, his shame deepening with every ruling. Judge Ellis delivered firm, yet compassionate, cutting through legal jargon to reach the human heart of each case. He saw her pause to comfort a nervous defendant, her words gentle but resolute. He saw her challenge a prosecutor's overreach, her logic razor-sharp. And he saw the respect she commanded, not through fear, but through integrity. As the final case concluded, Judge Ellis called Harper to the bench. The room fell silent. He approached, his heart in his throat, expecting a reprimand that would end his career. Instead, she looked at him, her eyes searching but not unkind. "Officer Harper," she said, "today was a mistake, but it's one we can learn from. You acted on fear, not malice. But fear can be as dangerous as intent." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I won't report this, but I expect you to carry this lesson forward. See people, not profiles." Harper nodded, his throat tight. He wanted to apologize, but the words felt inadequate. Instead, he vowed silently to change, not just for her, but for himself, for the badge he wore, for the people he'd sworn to protect. As the courtroom emptied, Judge Ellis lingered at the bench, her files stacked neatly. Marcus, still in cuffs, glanced back at her. "You meant what you said?" he asked, his voice quieter now. She met his gaze. Every word. For a moment, they understood each other not as judge and defendant, but as two people shaped by a world that often judged them first. The incident in Courtroom 4B became a quiet legend, a story whispered in precincts and law schools. It wasn't just about a cop's mistake or a judge's gray sight, it was about the courage to confront bias, the power of empathy, and the hope that even in a flawed system, one person's choice to rise above could ripple outward. Judge Amara Ellis returned to her bench the next day, her resolve unshaken. And Officer Harper? He carried her words with him, a reminder that justice begins not with a taser or a gavel, but with the willingness to see. Yindi.